We all will start with 3 Omkars and the prayer. Joining your hands in Namaskar towards the center of the chest. Eyes closed. Let your breath settle. Be completely available with your body, breath, and your mind for the session. We'll take a deep breath in and chant Omkar 3 times. Om. Sahana vavatu. Sahanau bhunaktu. Saha वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ Slowly open your eyes. All right. Thank you all for joining as we celebrate the next 6 days, or rather this week, following Yoga Day as Yoga Tattva week. So, as we celebrate this week as Yoga Tattva week, and during this week, we will try to understand some fundamental concepts about practicing yoga on the mat. So, I'm going to focus only on yoga practice on the mat, okay? Because many of us who connect with yoga through asana practice or at the most pranayam practice, which we do coming on the yoga mat. And then there are so many questions about yoga practice on the mat itself. So we will stick to that at least for this week, and we will not be really talking the philosophical part of it. Of course, it will come because it's an integral part of yoga, but still, what we will mainly be focusing on is asana practice. So today's focus or today's topic is from stiff to steady, building a sustainable asana practice. So before we talk about building a sustainable asana practice, let me tell you about a person, Ashtavakra. I'm sure many of us have heard Ashtavakra Gita. We must have heard, right? So Ashtavakra was a great yogi, scholar, philosopher, sage, whose body was twisted, they say, in 8 places. So that is why Ashtavakra. So people laughed at his form, And then there is a story when he entered King Janaka's court, and the guards at King Janaka's court, they giggled, and then they asked him, I mean, they stopped him from entering. And then Ashtavakra, he didn't really, he was not as scared of the guards, and there was a reason why he had approached King Janaka. And he said that, I thought this was a court of wisdom and not a place where you will give so much of importance to skin and bones. And then King Janak realized that, true steadiness comes not from how the body looks, but from how anchored the mind is. The Ashtavakra didn't have a perfect body, but still he is a yogi. Okay. But his presence itself was so steady, so rooted in wisdom that even King Janak, who was a king as well as a philosopher, he also bowed to him. And I would say that is the focus for the session today. Can we become comfortable within our own body, regardless of its shape, regardless of the flexibility or anything, muscle tone and this and that? Can we be comfortable within our own body? So that is what from stiffness to steadiness is. Because what is stiffness? Isn't it? Stiffness happens or occurs in the body. Stiffness is in the breath also, and stiffness is in the mind also. But today we are going to talk about asana practice. So we are going to focus on stiffness in the body. Okay. So we often say, or we often hear rather, we often hear so many people, they say, I can't do yoga, or I don't want to come for or join yoga class because my body is too stiff, or I am not flexible, my body is not flexible to do yoga. And they think that if you are flexible, you can do yoga. But yoga does not begin after flexibility, isn't it? It begins first with awareness. It begins with awareness. A very, very important thing to understand here is each of us moves in a certain way. And we don't move only when we come on the yoga mat. We move off the mat also. And each of us has been moving in a certain way for so many years. How we sit, how we stand, walk, climb stairs, how we carry our bags, how we pick up our children, how we type on our laptops, how we drive, how we hold the mobile phone in hand, how we water the plants, how do we stand for cooking. All of these everyday movements shape the way our body behaves. Think about it. You sit for long hours at a desk with your shoulders slightly rolled in. Then you very habitually always cross one leg over the other while sitting. Or you always carry your bag on the same side. What is this? These repetitive patterns. These are what? Repetitive patterns. So these patterns create some muscular imbalances. And obviously, as a result, there is tightness in some areas and weakness in some other areas. So, what you're calling stiffness is what? It is often just your body adapting to survive your daily routine. The moment you step on the mat, now we come on the mat. The moment you step on the mat and you attempt a posture, you attempt to practice an asana, say for example, Trikonasana, you attempt to practice Paschimottanasana, or you attempt to practice Bhujangasana. Your body does not forget those movement patterns when you are doing the pose. Your body doesn't forget those 8-hour workday postures. Those are also postures. The way you carry your children, the way you drive, the way you sit on the chair, office chair, the way you sit crossing one leg over the other, all these are asanas. This is asana. This is posture, isn't it? So when you step on the mat, the body does not forget those postures. Those are repetitive patterns because our yoga mat is not separate from our life. No magic is going to happen suddenly on the yoga mat, right? You can't drop all those movement patterns and start practicing fantastic poses on the mat. How is it possible? So, all of these repetitive movements create movement patterns in our bodies. And you carry your movement pattern into your asana. Your asana does not leave the movement pattern. Now, how do these movement patterns affect your asana practice? What does yoga ask? Yoga asks us to be present. But our body is continuously busy remembering our past through the patterns. It remembers our past injuries. It remembers the sport that we have played for so long. It remembers the way we have been holding our posture throughout our professional work hours and basically daily repetitions. Yoga asks us to be present, but the body is constantly remembering the past, and that is what is muscle memory. For example, see a student who is always slouching, he or she is going to struggle when he or she comes on the yoga mat and does some back bending posture. Or say someone who runs every day is going to have tight hamstrings and he or she is going to find forward bending, forward folds really frustrating, isn't it? Now, say a new mother who is holding her baby on one side only constantly may have shoulder and hip imbalances. As a result, lower back. Getting this? Now, when such a person, say a student or a runner or this new mother holding a baby on one side constantly, say such people, these people try to force themselves into a picture perfect posture, what is going to happen? It's going to lead to resistance first. Your body is going to resist first. The muscles are suddenly going to contract. They will rebel, they will revolt. They will say, no, we don't want to do. This is not a usual pattern for us. So the muscles will suddenly go into contraction. So this leads to resistance. This leads to stress, strain, and eventually what? Aversion. So many people then quit yoga or asana practice because they think my body is not made for this. Why do they think my body is not made for this? This as in what? This as in they think that picture perfect pose. And because their body doesn't fit into that picture perfect pose, they feel yoga is not for them. But the point here is, the truth is that they are trying to force, they're trying to force an ideal. But what is needed is you need to be, rather than thinking about ideal, you need to think about what is real, not ideal. So forcing an ideal is not needed. Instead of that, one has to honor what's real. This becomes steady when one starts honoring what is real. It becomes steady. Till one forces an ideal, it is stiff. And the topic for today is from stiff to steady. And the bottom line is to accept what's real. Now, there is a third word. Stiff is first word, then steady and sustainable. Building a sustainable practice. Now, what is a sustainable practice then? Sustainability. A sustainable asana practice is not about reaching that final shape. In fact, it is about listening to the stories that your body carries and creating a practice that supports it. This means instead of ignoring your patterns and beginning to force yourself into a pose on the yoga mat, you acknowledge your pattern, which has been created by the body for whatever reasons. Two, instead of pushing through stiffness, you breathe into it. We will talk about this, okay? I'm just giving you some points. Third, so we said instead of ignoring the patterns, we need to learn to acknowledge the pattern. Then, instead of pushing through the stiffness, pushing yourself into the pose through stiffness, we breathe. We breathe into the pose. And third, we are saying instead of mimicking a pose, copying, someone looks in a certain way in a certain pose on Instagram. Instead of mimicking a pose, you discover your version of that pose. We use our musculoskeletal system, our respiratory system mainly, our nervous system, circulatory system, for sure, practice on the mat, practice asana on the mat. Okay. Now, all of us have all of these systems built into our body, but still our bodies function differently. And that is why this third point of not mimicking a pose, and instead of that, discovering your own version of the pose is very, very important. So we start customizing, we start we start making that pose ours, that this is my bhujangasana. Not like the bhujangasana, it should be like that. No, how this is how my body does bhujangasana, with the benefits that it has to offer. So sometimes what does that mean? That means making changes, one, off the mat, and two, it also means supporting yourself on the mat. Both the things have to go hand in hand. If you acknowledge your movement pattern and understand that, okay, I am not able to sit in Gomukhasana because of a certain movement pattern that is being created due to the sport that I've been playing, or some musical instrument that I'm playing, because of which I have to constantly sit in a certain pose, or maybe driving, whatever it could be. Once you have acknowledged it and you want to do Gomukhasana, you need to improve your sitting posture, otherwise, not on the mat, off the mat also. Then you need to take walking breaks during the day. You need to change how you carry your bag. You need to change how you cross only one leg over the other. All of these patterns you need to consciously change. And then secondly, it also means not sometimes, every time you come on the mat, you support yourself on the mat using props, bending knees at times if forward fold is not happening, reducing the range to build steadiness. What happens otherwise is somebody's body is flexible and it has good range. Okay. But always using the full range of motion and using your full flexibility every time on the mat may create pain, or it leads to pain. Even that you have to acknowledge, because that is also another movement pattern. And once you acknowledge that, you need to consciously support yourself on the mat using props, bending knees, reducing the range, staying with breath, even if the shape looks less complete. Actually, there isn't anything as less complete. Complete is complete. There is no less complete or more complete. But still we feel, even if it feels less complete, to stay with the breath. This is real yogic intelligence, we will say, which is not about mastering the shape of the pose, but about developing a relationship with your body. What's the goal of asana? That's the goal of asana, that you develop relationship with your body. You start communicating with your body. You start talking, and not just that, you also stop and pay attention to listen to what your body is saying. Otherwise, we keep talking, but we don't listen to what the body is telling us. Your practice reflects your patterns. That's the key to remember. Asana is not some, and another very, very important point. This is something that why do we push through the stiffness and we don't breathe? Is because when we come on the mat, we suddenly get into the mode of performance. Asana is not about performing, it is about practicing. It's abhyas. Okay, in exam you perform, but at home you study, no? When there is no exam, you study. It is abhyas. It is practice. Asana is practice. It's never a performance. It's something you inhibit. So instead of resisting your patterns or feeling bad about them, let them become your starting point. So we are talking about the journey from stiff to steady. So we say the journey from stiffness to steadiness, let's say, has 4 steps. I talked about them, but we are now summarizing. 4 steps. What's the first step? Acceptance. Accepting that your body has built certain movement patterns. Second, when you come on the mat, you become aware of those movement patterns. Which movement pattern is now showing up on the mat in this pose? Become aware of it. Third, once you have that awareness, adjust the pose. Don't push to somehow still go ahead and let me do it. Adjust. And then align what? Align body, breath, and very important, intention. Why are you coming on the mat? To practice asana. Do you want to become someone who does the best bhujangasana in the world? Or you want that asana practice to benefit you? What is the intention? Isn't it? If we want to train for competition, then that's a different thing. We will talk about it different. Competition. But all of us who have gathered here are not coming on the yoga mat to prepare for some asana competition. There is no performance, there's no competition. There is no competition with us also. Let's not even say that, oh no, I have my competition with myself. No, there is no competition. Because even if I am doing bhujangasana in certain way today, and tomorrow it looks different, but still I can feel better. It may look less deep tomorrow, but I will still feel more comfortable tomorrow. Okay. So, in that sense, the definition of improvement in yogasana is very different. So, the journey from stiff to steady begins with one, acceptance, second, awareness, third, adjustment, and fourth, aligning the body, breath, and intention. Otherwise, yes, I have the intention that my asana practice should benefit me, but I forget about it when I come on the mat and I see other people doing certain poses and I get into performance mode. So there is no alignment of body, breath, and intention. So, in this journey from stiff to steady, we move from forcing the body to, let's say, being friends with it, befriending it. We move from performing the postures to practicing them or to living them. And that is the essence, we would say, of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra Sthira Sukham Asanam. When he defines asana as sthira, sukha, stable and easeful. Getting this? Now, let's say I had, for a change, I used, um, I had heard that ChatGPT creates images these days. So, this afternoon, I tried some ChatGPT and I gave some prompts to ChatGPT to create an image of how the Bhujangasana would look like for a person who is sitting on the chair all the time with rounded shoulders. So ChatGPT has given me an image and I will show that image to you. Okay. So let's see how the Bhujangasana looks like and how we can improve it. Do you see? Are you able to see? Yes. See, so the left side, this is all ChatGPT created image, okay? And I'm really happy with this kind of. So all the descriptions I gave and it gave me this output. So the left side, you see what is happening with this person. Just observe, okay? The shoulders are coming towards the ears. Hmm? And see the thighs. The thighs are lifting up. And there is no back bend here. Back is not bending at all. Okay. Now, this if your Bhujangasana is looking like this, what does this indicate? The hip flexor. The hip flexor is the part um of the thigh where the leg joins the hip. Okay, that part of the hip flexor is very tight. So this indicates that this person is sitting, and because of that sitting posture, prolonged sitting, that hip flexor has become very tight. And because of that, the thigh is not going down towards the floor. Okay. Then what we see? The upper back is also very tight. Again, because of sitting or probably working on the laptop like this. Because the shoulders are constantly rolled in, the shoulder blades are going away from each other, right? And the shoulders are coming not just forward, but they are also slightly lifted up, which is creating compression here also in the neck region. Okay. Now, if this person comes on the mat and does Bhujangasana like this again and again and again daily in the class, this will result in some pain only, not give any benefit to this person. Now, if this person's yoga teacher tells him, you should not straighten your elbows, do not come up so much. Instead of that, rest your entire forearms and your elbows on the floor and do a Sahaja Bhujangasana, like they call Sphinx pose in English. Sahaja Bhujangasana, Sulabha Bhujangasana. Then that Bhujangasana is actually going to help that person. ChatGPT didn't really help me here. I was trying to create because the face is not visible, but you see the other side, the right side, the elbows. I wanted the elbows to rest on the mat, but you see here, thighs are rested Shoulders are away from the ears and the center of the chest is going forward. Now, this pose is going to help this person. Now, if this person stays in the pose which you can see to the left, then he is also going to put a lot of pressure on the wrists. And this person will not be able to steadily hold this pose for long. But the right side pose, this person will be able to hold with steadiness for long. So this is from stiffness to steadiness. Left side is stiff while the right side is steady. And what has happened? Accepting the movement pattern, becoming aware of that movement pattern, peeping into Bhujangasana, showing up in Bhujangasana. Then third, making adjustment in the pose, accepting that, okay, this is my Bhujangasana because this gives me the benefits of Bhujangasana. And then aligning because my intention is to get benefited from the pose. So I align my body, breath, and intention because in this pose now, in this Bhujangasana, because the chest is open, I will be able to breathe. Otherwise, here I will not be able to breathe because I will keep finding a good place for my neck to move. My neck will not be able to move freely. My chest is again not wide open. So these are the things that we all need to remember. Um, we all need to understand when we are trying to build a, a practice which is steady and which is sustainable. Now, to make it, or rather to elaborate it more, let's again revisit and define these words: stiff, steady, sustainable, and also asana and practice. All these words. So, what is stiff? What do we understand by stiff? You can put in the chat box. What do you understand by stiff? Muscles are tight. Okay, yes. The rigidity of body, regular body muscle pattern, resistance, one position, okay, rigidity of body, restricted movement, tightness, rigidity, not able to move body parts easily, not flexible, movement is not easy, tight, stress, resistance, correct. Okay, yes. So yes, all of this is right. So we use this word stiff. Now the literal meaning of stiff: rigid, as you all said, tight, inflexible, or like someone said, lack of ease of movement is stiff. Now, in yogic context, asana is done through musculoskeletal system, but musculoskeletal system only expresses the posture. It's a medium to express the posture. So it is a tool to express. Okay. So, in yoga context, physical stiffness is yes, tight muscles, restricted range of motion, lack of ease of movement. Second, energetic stiffness. What is that energetic stiffness? When the prana is blocked, energy is blocked, breath that doesn't flow freely, that is also stiffness. And third, mental stiffness. Mental stiffness is what? Resistance again, inflexibility again, rigidity again, lack of ease of movement even here again. So resistance to change or fear of discomfort, rigid beliefs about how I should be looking all the time. Now, some expectations that we have, all of this is what? Stiffness. And this mental stiffness is carried forward into energetic stiffness. And energetic stiffness through the body is expressed as tightness in the muscles, restricted range of motion, inflexibility, and stiffness, which results in the pose. Getting this? So, when we talk of stiffness to steadiness, this is where changing the patterns even off the mat comes into picture. When we, if we want to practice asanas or do some improvement in our own asana practice on the mat, when we slowly start loosening, when we start releasing the knots here off the mat, all that will be reflected even on the mat. Okay. Then the second word is steady here in our topic, stiffness to steadiness. Now, what is steady? What do we understand by steadiness? Hmm. Focused and stable. Yes, stable, steady, firm, balanced. Yes, steady is being. Okay, yes. Ekagra, grounded, calm, sthira. Correct, calmness. Active consistently. Okay, being able to remain in same position or state, stable and comfortable. Sthita prajna, stable and consistent, firm and anchored. Sthira. Okay, yes. So we understand what steady is. Stable, grounded, unshaken. When the stability is not depending upon anything, when stability becomes the nature, stability is not depending upon any of the external factors. In yoga context, again, from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, sthira is the word that he uses. So, that is steadiness and easeful that I talked about. Sthiram Sukham. Again, physical steadiness, energetic steadiness, and mental steadiness. Not just about balance, but also about the mind and the breath that do not waver, that don't shake. And that steadiness comes from inner listening, not outer copying. When you mimic the pose, When you try to copy, the steadiness will not come in the pose. But when you listen to your own movement patterns, you accept them, you become aware of them. That is what inner listening, and steadiness comes from that inner listening. So we have spoken about what is stiff, what is steady, and what's the next word in the title? Build. We are talking about stiff to steady, building a sustainable asana pattern. What is build? What is to build? To build is to construct, to develop step by step. Okay? The building is not just built like that, it is step by step, isn't it? So, in our context, again, building, what are we trying to build here? What are we talking about? We are talking about, we're not talking about building an asana. We are talking about building the practice. We are talking about building a sustainable asana practice. So, building a practice means you cultivate it over time, brick by brick, through these four stages of acceptance and awareness and adjustment and alignment. These are the building blocks to build the practice. So you cultivate it over time through awareness, through patience and repetition, because building is brick over brick over brick. It is repetition with patience. And so there is one more sutra, Dirghakala Nirantara, long duration without any break, Nirantara. This kind of work is needed to build. So it's not about achieving a pose today. Building is not about achieving a pose today, but growing into it with awareness and consciously. And at times, building also may include unbuilding some harmful patterns. And it may also include rebuilding some new patterns, some functional patterns, physically, again, energetically, and mentally, all three levels. So that's how we should understand building. And then, very important word is sustainable. What is sustainable for you? What do you understand by sustainable? Long lasting, can hold for long comfortably without hurting. Yes, long term, long lasting, consistent, shashwat, nurtured. Okay. Ability to make it a lifestyle, holistic, long term, repetitive, long term. Can be practiced daily. Yes. Which is consistent and doesn't change with external. Right. So, what is sustainable? That practice which is able or which one can maintain over time. Two things are very important. I feel practice over time without exhaustion or damage. No exhaustion or damage. So, here in our context, it needs to be a practice that honors your body's Not just movement patterns, but changing needs. As our body ages, the ability of the body and the needs of the body change. And as per that, we should be ready to accept and adapt new asana practice. Just because I was able to do Mayurasana and Shirshasana and this and that a few years back, I should be able to do that now also. Not a very realistic idea. I'm not saying no one can do that. Okay, I'm not saying that. And there is no harm trying for it. But accepting, that's the first thing. Accepting that body ages. Yes, it does. That's the nature of the body. There is Shad it undergoes six modifications. Asti jayate vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati. This is what happens to the body. So a practice, that practice is sustainable, that honors your body's changing needs. That is what we will call sustainable. Then another way is one that can be adapted with age, with injury, energy, and emotional state. Then it's sustainable when, like someone said, it is when it feels nourishing and not like energy sapping, not depleting. At the end of the practice, I feel nourished. I don't feel exhausted now. Oh my God, I can't walk or stand or talk. I don't have energy to do this. No, it's not depleting. It involves balance between discipline and compassion towards you, and or we could say effort and rest, both. So we have understood stiff, steady, building, sustainable. Now the fifth word is asana, because we are talking about stiffness to steadiness, building a sustainable asana practice. So the fifth word is asana. What is an asana? A seat. Firstly, a seat is an asana. Like I'm sitting on an asana. All of us are sitting on an asana. So a seat. And posture, pose. As is the dhatu. To sit, dwell, to be present is as. Asti. So in our context, yoga context, it is not just a physical posture, but that word itself, it is a state. It is a state of being present. It's like a state of embodiment. So an asana is truly an asana when the body is stable, the breath is free, and the mind is clear. It is why that dhatu is asa, because it is a field of being, it is a field of awareness, not a shape. It is not a shape or a form. So we are not talking about pushing through the stiffness, and we are not talking about achieving a particular shape. Then practice, the last word. What is practice? Practice is repetitive, isn't it? It is a repeated performance, and it is done for growth. Practice is repeated performance, it is done for growth. So it is abhyas, which is the essence of yoga. practice in our context, daily context of showing up, of practicing on the yoga mat, it means showing up. Even when it's hard, even when it is boring, even when it is subtle, showing up. See what happens otherwise, people, we start practicing yoga as in asana, okay? We join a yoga class and we stay with that class for 3 months, okay? And then we think now I need something advanced. And we use that word advanced. So people who come for 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, they take a break, say for whatever, 15 days. There was a vacation and now someone is coming back from vacation. And then they call me and ask, is this batch suitable for me? I have already done 6 months with you, so I need something advanced. So what is that advanced thing? Who is advancing? Where, what is the destination? What's the goal? Where do you want to live? What's happening there? Is your body getting nourished? Are you feeling steady? Are you feeling free? All of this defines your practice. So what happens otherwise? When some change in routine happens, there is something additional that you have to do, or some change in timetable. What do we do? First, we stop the asana practice. The first thing we do, I'm taking a break. That's the first thing that will just go. But after coming back from the break, we expect that the same thing should continue, which won't happen. It won't happen. Because again, during that break, your body has built some movement patterns. And you are again bringing those movement patterns back on the mat. So be ready. Now we should not be in a hurry to again go back to that state. Oh, when I went on a break, I was already doing that and now I'm not able. Yes, natural. That's how it is going to be. So it means showing up even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it is subtle. You can't really understand what's happening. Concentrate on the center of the eyebrow. I don't know why I can't concentrate on the center of the eyebrow. Still, show up and observe that, oh, I'm not able to. It means returning to the mat. Yes, taking break natural happens, but returning to the mat with humility, with acceptance, and with curiosity. And this is, I feel, the essence of building a sustainable asana practice. Let the advanced poses come to you. They will come. They will not go anywhere. What we all need to focus on is how do we consistently prepare. Preparation, practice, not pose. P अगर है तो वो pose का नहीं है. Preparation and practice, preparation and practice, preparation and practice. And one day the pose suddenly happens. We don't even have to make efforts to do that pose. So I think this is what I had to share with you all about how we go from stiffness to steadiness to build a sustainable practice, and how we understand what stiffness is, what steadiness is, and how so many patterns of movements that are created off the mat are carried on the mat and they reflect through our asana practice. And that is why we need to find our own version of the same asana when we practice asana on the mat. My bhujangasana will look different than her bhujangasana. I may need 3 pillows to practice prasarita padottanasana or ugrasana, while someone will just sleep flat on stomach and chest on the mat. It is quite possible, and that is because of movement patterns. We have still not talked about the structural thing. We will talk about it during these 6 days. Okay. I will chant the closing prayer, and after that, if you have questions, you can ask me. Okay. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ थैंक यू